Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talmbout Rasslin right here on the Black Phoenix Network. I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Saturday. Happy Saturday again. Perfect day to talk about some wrestling. This week, after last week, we went a little long because I had to make up some things. This week, we're going to go a little shorter, okay? We're going to go a little shorter. There's plenty to talk about, and we're going to cover it. But try to condense it down a little bit. All right? I don't want to keep you all day. It's a pretty Saturday, hopefully where you are. So we want to make sure that you get out and enjoy the day, right? So, first and foremost, as we always do, I want to make sure that I thank everybody for tuning in to Talking About Wrestling and the Black Phoenix Network. Again, not just talking about wrestling, but everything here on the Black Phoenix Network, whether that be talking about wrestling on Saturdays, What's Up Wednesdays, my weekly article series, or Manifesto Mondays, which I just did the season finale for this past Monday. And that'll be it. But you can still go and catch all of them still here on the Black Phoenix Network. Soon I actually will be putting those up on YouTube as well. So you'll be able to catch it there as well. May even repost them on we'll get into all that later. That's neither here nor there. But thank you for tuning in to Talking About Wrestling. So if you tune into anything on the Black Fitness Network, thank you for that. Continue to do so. I will be continuing to drop content every week. Okay, whether you like to read, whether you like to listen, whether you like to watch. I got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Okay, so make sure you tune in to all the content here on the Black Fitness Network. I will continue to do it, and make sure that you like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you tell a friend, tell a foe, tell a family member, tell a wrestler, tell a artist. Hey, the sky is the limit here on the Black Fitness Network. We're going to do a little bit of everything. Okay, we're going to touch all the bases. So make sure that you spread the word. Make sure you leave some comments. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment below, either here or on YouTube, on, again, Substack, or on YouTube. Make sure you leave a comment. Engagement is the key. Engagement is the key. So if you're watching, thank you for watching. But make sure that you leave a like, leave some comments, a question, thoughts, whatever. That being said, this week, like I said, we're going to try to condense it a touch. So I wanted to cover, of course, last weekend was the big wrestling weekend. AEW All Out in Toronto. And of course, WWE decided they were going to counter program with WrestlePalooza, which wasn't really much of a counter program once AEW decided to push their event back into the afternoon rather than at night, which again I think was a great idea. It worked out for me perfectly. I watched the pay-per-view, and then I went out. Now they ran it a little long, so it kind of threw my plans a little bit behind, but it wasn't that big of a deal, right? Still able to go out and do what I wanted to do. So love that. Because of course I did not watch WrestlePalooza. Had no interest in it. I mentioned that last week. And I don't think I was wrong in that decision. So today we're going to cover what happened at All Out, the fallout from it, and how that played into Dynamite and where we're going forward with AEW. A lot of stuff happened on the All Out card. A lot of stuff didn't happen on the WrestlePalooza card. Again, which is why I say I think I made the right decision. So we're going to start. I'm not going to cover the pre-show that was on before All Out. This was less of it was a pre-show in the context of what it was, but apparently they showed it. They played it, I think, on TNT or TBS, one of the two. So it was more like a Sunday Night Heat kind of deal, like an hour show before the pay-per-view, where they had those matches. The They had the Ops. They had Joe and Will Hobbs versus um, the Workhorsemen. Of course, that was an easy dub. Daniel Garcia versus Shibata, a win for Danny Garcia. And of course, the 8-woman uh, tailgate brawl, which the baby faces won. Good, solid way to start the show. Like I said, I wasn't going to really cover it, but did want to acknowledge those matches. Um, and then they opened up the show, which we mentioned last week, with Cope and Cage versus FTR. And it was exactly what it needed to be. There were still some surprises, right? And it's one of those things that is like, I should have seen this coming, and yet I didn't. During that match, Beth, formerly Phoenix, now Copeland, made her AEW debut. And it's a funny thing about All Out, right? You tend to forget that this was a flagship show for them, right? Like now it's not really that. All In has become so big as in the international sense that All Out kind of, and because of the proximity to them normally, that All Out kind of ended up becoming like a bit of a backseat show from All Out. So that's kind of a thing, but you know, it's still historically one of their flagship shows, and they have a ton of these moments of people on the show who, if you go back through history, like I forget, it's one of those things where you kind of look at like I forgot that they were in AEW for a minute, or that they had a match in AEW, or that the year that I went to All Out, I think that was 2022. The Motor City Machine Guns were on that show. They never had much more of a run than that, and now they're in WWE. Make that make sense. So it's that kind of thing. Like you tend to forget that people had like Adam. The year before that was the Adam Cole, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson debuts, and CM Punk's first match. So there are all these moments tied to All Out. This was another one. Beth Phoenix / now Copeland came out to neutralize the Stokely problem, which was super dope. Like Pop was crazy. I wouldn't say it's one of those things that you didn't think would happen, because you kind of would think like, okay, well, eventually, she might, once Cope was there, then of course she was gonna show up, right? After the match, of course, Cope and Cage win. Of course, it's in Toronto, right? They win the match. After the match, of course, Beth comes back out after she took out Stokely. Nick Wayne appears at the ramp in his wheelchair. Kip Sabian comes in, attacks, and they handcuff Cope to the rope. Spike pile driver to Christian. And then they turn to Beth, who goes out like a G. Like Cope's handcuffed. She's trying to get him in handcuffs. She's really kind of standing over him to make sure they don't do anything to him. And then they circle, FTR circles. And she's like, oh, shit. So she kisses him. I love you. And then she just starts swinging on FTR. She's like, I'm going out like a G. She went out like Cleo. Okay, she went out like Cleo. Eventually, she gets a spike pile driver too. Heel, 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 heel. Right. So, fast forward to Wednesday night on Dynamite, we get a kind of behind the scenes, or after, or whatever of that, where Christian's in the locker room. Cope comes in and he's like, can't keep doing this. It's starting to affect my family. I need to leave, and I don't know if I'm coming back. And of course, FTR comes out and does a, apology, which is basically saying like, look what you made me do to you. It was I only did that because I thought it was your husband, and I would, if you weren't there And if you didn't hit my best friend, I wouldn't have done this to you. It was a farce of an apology, which brings out Willow, who confronts them and says, women like Beth are the reason women like me don't have to put up with shit from guys like you. Which then brings out Jet Speed to kind of defend Willow. So it looks like we're probably going to get Jet Speed versus FTR going forward, which sign me up for that. As far as Cope goes, there's a lot of scuttlebutt in the wrestling world that, oh, he's leaving to come back to WWE so he can wrestle John Cena before he leaves. Listen, I know the wrestling world wants that to happen. Okay. Think of what happened here and think of what really makes sense. We're going to debut Beth Phoenix / Copeland. Great moment. Take her out with a spike pile driver. And Cope is going to leave AEW in a backstage segment that didn't even get aired like during the pay-per-view. It kind of got aired after the fact on Dynamite. The only person who was left like that was William Regal. But he wasn't an active wrestler, so it kind of made sense, right? And everything that he did up to that point kind of was weird too. He had turned on BCC and helped MJF and yada yada yada. But that's neither here nor there. So for what Cope is and what Cope has done, for what everything that's happening has happened, it is very unlikely that Cope is actually gone from AEW. So the idea, I know, he's one of Cena's biggest rivals. Cena did the spear, and I want to say it was that Sami Zayn, maybe against Sami Zayn, or one of those matches. Probably was the Sami Zayn match. In this match, Cope did the "You Can't See Me" and the Attitude Adjustment, as well as they did a 3D, and I want to say they did like a Twist of Fate, or he was trying to. I think Christian was trying to do a Twist of Fate. So that was also a call. It's kind of this weird thing, like where people in these different companies, so they're calling out people. Like, of course, the Dudleys, and are they the Dudleys in TNA right now, or are they just Team 3D? I don't know, but Team 3D / the Dudleys and the Hardys are about to have a tables match at, I think it's at Bound for Glory, if I'm not mistaken. And so, of course, the third piece of that is Edge and Christian / Cope and Christian, who are in AEW, and they're not going to show up there. So, in their promo, in the contract signing on TNA, Jeff Hardy, I think, referenced Edge and Christian about I live on the edge and I'm a born again Christian or something, which I don't know what it is, but a way to call it out. So it's funny that like you have these people who are nearing the ends of their careers, but in different companies, but finding a way to shout out the people that they can't wrestle anymore. So I think that's a cool way to do that. But anyway, back to Cope, who I was talking about. So with Cope doing the "You Can't See Me," I'm sorry, everybody wants that to be the thing, but they wouldn't do those. Well, you know what? On one hand, I would say they wouldn't do those teases if the match wasn't going to happen, because that's kind of the point of him doing this. But I mean, the AJ Styles news kind of, apparently all the teasers with AJ Styles was the lead up to the Cena match. So that's the thing. But it's not happening with Edge / Cope, right? Another fun fact, the thing I wanted to kind of touch on here and there, I said I would do a podcast about it, but I don't pay enough attention and I don't know all the lore sometimes. What culture I think it was used to do a recap of the gear and the Easter eggs in the gear, or whoever wrestled in whatever show will come on. This is like for WrestleManias especially, or SummerSlams, big shows like that, where they would do these different these special gears and like the hidden meanings in the gear and what is the reference to and all of that. Cope had on gear that resembled his original Edge gear that had like the kind of sunburst kind of thing in that design with the coat with Cope instead of Edge, obviously, and the C instead of the E. Something that I found really cool because most of the stuff he's done has played back to like his rated R superstar stuff. Going with the Edge look, the early Edge look from the Edge and Christian run, I think was a really cool little touch of things to do. And the only thing that I'm on one hand, I was shocked that he didn't do like a blue attire because he was in Toronto and of course the Blue Jays. But he went with a different kind of throwback look, and I think that worked perfectly. I love that person. Again, you know me, you know I love a callback, you know I love an Easter egg, so I love that. But Cope is not gone. I do not believe it that he is leaving. He will be back. He is going to film Percy Jackson. That's where he is. So, hey, the Berkshire Bubble, you're not getting the Edge Cena match before you go. I don't know who his last opponent is going to be. Um, Edge wouldn't make sense. I would think that Edge is probably his uh one of his biggest opponents. His Lex Luthor, if you will. And I can't think of who else really gave him that much of a I mean he has a few, but I think and I don't know who it could be. That's the thing. I don't know who it could be. They've kind of I won't say they burned through all of possible. He makes the most sense. I would definitely agree with that he does make the most sense. But I don't think it's him. I don't think it's him. I'd be shocked if it was. Maybe they worked something out. I don't know, but we'll see. Okay. Moving on. I spent a lot of time on that. Moving on. Next up was Big Bill versus the returning Eddie Kingston, and quick match. Wasn't great, but good match for Bill. He looked dominant. Great return for Eddie Kingston. Of course, after the match, Brian Keith tries to, well, not even tries to. They attack, double team Big Bill, which brings out Hook. Hook comes out. They clean house. And listen, I don't hate it. It seems strange because Eddie talks how he talks. Hook doesn't talk much at all. But there is this weird New York kind of thing that both of them have. Hook is interesting because obviously he was the fire of the wrestling world for a period of time, and he still kind of is. He still gets a huge reaction. Um, love the new theme they have for him. I'm not really sure where they go with that. Right? Are they going to be a tag team? I would like to see that. Is it going to be like a mentor thing? Cool with that too. It works, and Eddie can talk enough for both of them. There was a promo that he did afterwards. Uh, Hook didn't say much. He said as much like Hook didn't say much. I don't know if they're gonna have the same like chemistry or the same dynamic somewhat as like Joe and Hook did, which I love. But I think there's something unique and something special that they can do there as well. So I'm looking forward to see where that goes. Glad to see Eddie back. And now it's a matter of like where do we slide him? What do we do with him? And if they're gonna start building them as a tag team and like try to get them to a tag team title, I'm perfectly okay with that. Next up, we had the tables and tax match, the TNT match with Mark Briscoe versus MJF. Sidebar, I don't even know if I mentioned this tonight. Eddie Kingston, of course, got the win against Big Bill. Of course, you know, um, like I said, wasn't a great match. Eddie kind of whiffed his I had to go back. Eddie kind of whiffed his spinning back fist on the second one to get the pin, but whatever. We achieved what we were trying to achieve. Moving along. Tables and tax match, MJF versus Mark Briscoe. I didn't know what this was going to be. And then once it became what it was like, oh, this is. It was as much about psychology as it was the violence. Because to start the match, there are buckets of thumbtacks in each corner, tables all around the ring. And to start the match, MJF leaves, gets out the ring, and Mark Briscoe fills the ring with thumbtacks. So now you know you're getting the thumbtack spot to start, right? So what do you do to start? You have to tease it. Who's going to hit him first? MJF is scared of the tags. Mark Briscoe is trying to put him in the tags. And so you have that play of, avoiding the tags. And then it just goes from there. It wasn't even like brutal per se. I don't think I would call it brutal as much as I would just call it like, it was bloody. Mark Briscoe bled a lot. But again, it was more psychological than you would think for that to be. So a really, really surprisingly, I don't think I never thought the match would be bad, but I would say surprisingly good for me to not know what to expect going into it. And of course, Mark Briscoe gets the win. At this point, I was 3 for 3 because if you want to count the pre-show, 5 for 5. So keeping that in mind as well. Big win for Mark Briscoe. Still not sure where we go forward with Mark Briscoe from that. MJF apparently is going to go away for a while. He cut a promo after the match that was shown on Dynamite where he mentioned that, he's been playing MJF since he's come back from losing the title. And now he has to get back to being MJF, being the most diabolical, evil MJF that he's ever been. So looking forward to see what that looks like. But, and I'm sure he's probably going to film a movie or something. Losing MJF is another person leaving. Like, AEW's, I won't say losing a lot of people, but have a lot of people injured or out right now. And if Cope's going to be gone for a while and we're not getting, and I don't know how long that's going to be, and we're not going to get Beth Copeland anytime soon, and MJF is taking some time off for that reason. Getting Eddie back is a big look. Speaking of Mark Briscoe, this past Wednesday on Dynamite, they had a 6-man tag with Okada, Takeshita, and Hechicero, I think was the third, versus Hologram, Mark Briscoe, and a returning Orange Cassidy. So you got Orange Cassidy back as well. So you do have some people in now. They're not filling the gaps of a Swerve and an Ospreay, but or Copeland or an MJF. Like, you lost 4. Cope wasn't like a title contender type person, but he was still one of your bigger names. So you've lost 4 people, at least 4 of your top people, and Kenny's kind of here and there. So you lost like 5 people, 5 of your top names in the last like 2 months or so. So it's an opportunity for them to pull some people up to the main event. Kyle Fletcher, I think, is going to start to ascend. Obviously, he was in the main event this night, but we'll come back to that. So, they're in a spot. They're definitely in a spot, and I think it's an opportunity for them to pull some people up that maybe we wouldn't expect. I don't know who that would be, but there are some guys that are ready, man. You just have to pull the trigger. You just have to start pulling the trigger, and MJF may be back sooner than later. Colt may be back sooner than later. Ospreay and Swerve are going to be gone for a while. And you got to do something to really fill that gap. Hangman's gonna hold it down, but who else are you gonna build in that space? So it remains to be seen. I have faith in AEW to do it. I just don't know who it will be. Right. Moving on. Trios match. Ricochet, Bishop Khan, Toa Leona, who are now known as the Demand. Don't know what that means, but they've been doing like the little a D type thing, a little 3. This thing they've been doing, which I guess is a D for the Demand. Don't know what the Demand. I wish they would have explained that. Like I love when there's an explanation for why the name is the name. For instance, D-Generation X didn't just get randomly named D-Generation X. There was an explanation, at least made there. They always call us degenerates. They always call Generation X. They always talking about Generation X and say we're degenerates. So I guess we're D-Generation X. I don't even know if anybody even knows that's the lore of how that became the name. Degenerate Generation X, D-Generation X. Don't even know that. No people know how that happened. 4 Horsemen, same thing. That was more of an accident. I don't know how much D-Generation X was planned, but 4 Horsemen was an accident. New World Order, kind of the same thing. You can call this a New World Order of wrestling. Makes sense. To just randomly get named the Demand, I wish they would have had something to explain why it was called the Demand, but whatever, it's fine. The Demand versus the Hurt Syndicate. And again, I'm on top. The Demand wins. That was my wild card pick. Because of all of them that I wasn't sure about, I was like, this is the one I'm not that sure about. And it was right. And I was like, oh, I'm going to sweep the night, baby. I'm sweeping the night. Good match. Great match. A much needed win for Ricochet and GOA for the Demand. Much needed win. And hopefully they're going places. I think they should go ahead and at some point get the Trios Championship. I think that's the ultimate goal. And the Ops aren't really doing anything for real. Shibata's out, and I think they were supposed to have a match Wednesday, but Shibata wasn't cleared, so they had a tag title match with Brodito. Spoiler alert. Which Brodito won, of course. MVP took the win in this match, of course. So that kind of keeps Lashley strong, kind of keeps Shelton strong. Because, of course, in theory, MVP, the one who doesn't wrestle that often, is the weaker link in this whole equation. So, of course, he takes the L there. Again, good match. I don't think Hurt Syndicate has lost a bit. Not really sure where they go, because, again, I wouldn't mind seeing them with the Trios Championship. But MVP would have to wrestle more. I don't think that's really the way that they kind of did this. I don't think that that's the direction that they plan on going with them. The heel wrestle maybe more occasionally, but I don't think Trios is in their future. I thought it was. I don't think it is. I see how they're trying to, or where MVP is and what they're trying to do here. So, understand. But again, good win for the Demand. Looking forward to see where they go going forward. Next up, TBS Championship. TBS Championship. Mercedes Moné beats Rio again. Still on the roll, baby. I'm still on the roll. Okay. Mercedes Moné, Rio was exactly what I said that it would be, because both of them are smaller and closer in stature than most of the people that either of them face. The offense looked a little better. Rio's moves looked a little better. Mercedes' moves looked a little better. Some of the stuff she does, it looks okay on the bigger opponents, but like with somebody the size of Rio, it looks devastating. And that's exactly what happened here. A really good match. Mercedes wins, of course. I don't even remember what it's called now. The the finishing move she uses, it's not the bank statement, I don't think. Maybe it is. Or maybe that's the WWE move. I'm not sure. But whatever that move is, where she kind of does the thing and flips it over, looked actually good to Rio because Rio's small enough to hit it. Like normally when she does it to people her size or bigger, it looks strange because there's not enough, I guess, room to maneuver it. With Rio, it looked like it actually did something because she almost did it like a DDT. And Rio's light enough where you can kind of do that kind of thing. So it worked. A lot of discourse this week from Gail Kim regarding Rio and her size and not being able to, that Rio wasn't believable, and they're kind of fetishizing her, I guess, because she's like a little schoolgirl and they're all up her skirt and it's like, we're making some interesting takes in wrestling these days. Gail Kim is, I guess OG enough to have these opinions, but it's like, I guess. I don't know. No. I think it's just an opinion. I think a lot of people are kind of blowing it out of proportion. But I guess it kind of is what it is, right? It comes to the territory. So that's what legends do, man. Legends get on these podcasts or legends get on Twitter and say what they feel. Why not? Because we get on there and say what we feel. Right now, I'm on here saying what I feel. So, I mean, go figure. I think CM Punk is overrated. Fight me. Moving on. Unified Championship. Okada versus Takeshita versus Mascara Dorada. Mascara Dorada. Okay. That match, this match of the night for me, easily, hands down. Because Mascara Dorada showed out. Talk about it. I don't even know if you want to call it a coming out party, but call it a coming out party. Yo, Mascara Dorada was on fire. Stole the show, stole the match. Like, was obviously out to prove something in this match. And of course, you got the tension between Takeshita and Okada, and you got Don Callis on the commentary trying to just downplay it. It's not a big deal. It's not that serious. It's not. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's not fine. We're leading to an Okada Takeshita one-on-one. Takeshita may be the guy to take this title off of Okada. I'm at this point, I'm almost certain that's what's going to happen here. I know a rumor was that it was Kenny. I don't think it's Kenny. I think it's Takeshita. Hands down, 110%. I think Kenny probably will come back for the TNT title and Kyle Fletcher maybe. Because now that's on the books. Once Kenny comes back, he's probably going after Kyle Fletcher because of Kyle Fletcher being the one to take him out. I think Takeshita probably beats Okada. And the right thing probably to do would be for him to be the IWGP champion when he does it. And for it to be Okada and Takeshita at the Tokyo Dome. That's what I think would be the right thing to do. I could be wrong. That's what I think. But again, Mascara Dorada was the star of this match, hands down. This is one of those matches, like, Okada in AEW has been strange. I know a lot of people are like, when is he going to become like the Okada we know from New Japan? And I didn't watch a lot of New Japan. I saw the key matches that, to watch. I saw him at All In versus Marty Scurll. And I saw a couple of the Kenny matches. But I didn't really get into like regular New Japan Okada. But in AEW, even I can admit, he looked bored. Like most of his matches, he never looked, and he looked bored. That's the best way I can put it. And I don't think he was bored. I just think that's the way they were playing it. Okada post Unified Championship, post Kenny Omega post Unified Championship has been completely different. Killing it. I see now it doesn't look, now that look thing that he has doesn't look bored. It looks unconcerned, or it looks confident, and like it's a different visual than it was at first. This is the best way I can put it. So I definitely love the direction we're going with Okada and Takeshita is definitely going to be unified champion. Eventually, probably AEW World Champion. Though I think the unified champion is supposed to be kind of the 1B to the World Championship. It hadn't necessarily been that just yet, but I think that's kind of the way they look at it. Which I agree is what it should be. Not even like an Intercontinental Championship. It should be more in the vein of like the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship, or the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship. It should be that. They haven't done that yet, but I think that is a direction they could go and should go. So, go figure with that. Next up, we had the coffin match. Jon Moxley and Darby Allin, and I said it that I would cringe, and I cringed because we went back to the ears. Jon Moxley was bleeding from his ear before the bell rang, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not that it's like that's a weird thing, but like, why are we, what are we doing? I know ears are very, they whatever. They're ears, right? I don't want to see it getting dug into. Gross, man. Gross. I didn't watch it. So there were so many twists and turns in this match, and I knew this was a win for Darby, right? And it all lined up to be a win for Darby. Again, twists and turns. And so Brian Danielson, I gotta get used to it. I should be by now. Brian Danielson's on commentary, of course, for the whole night. And there's the thing of like, what did Brian say to Darby in that interview on Dynamite? And I didn't know until I knew. Right? And it was halfway through the match that I realized what it was. But there were so many things happening here with these coffins. It's funny because it's essentially a casket match that we're used to calling it, like a casket match, but like the coffins are much more at play than they are in those matches, in the casket matches. And it's a weird thing because there's not that supernatural or that, super, it's not that, it's not an Undertaker thing. It's like, it's a brutal match. It's a violent match, and it's not it's not that playing on the fears and I'm the dead man and all that. It's as much of like it fits. I think it fits Darby in a different way than it fits the Undertaker, and that's a cool thing. So that really they went balls to the wall. There were so many spots, so many, just like I said, cringe-inducing moments to this match. And so we started to get to the finish, and so Darby is closing in on the win finally. And what's the thing? What would Brian have said? And it definitely was something like, it's something I need you to do. If I'm going to keep my word, it's something I need you to do. What would it be? Because what did they do to Brian? They suffocated him with a bag. And I said, oh, it's going to be the bag. And sure enough, it was the bag. And I think, okay, cool, this is the finish. We get to come. Mox gets his comeuppance with the bag. Everything is everything. Like, we come full circle, we bring it all home. That's how we do it. Nope, wasn't the end. Because for some reason, Darby wouldn't. I mean, I guess you couldn't, but I don't know. It wasn't it, even though I felt like it should have been it. And then this homeless looking dude comes in and kicks Darby, and we're all looking, and it's like, is that Pac? Pac? What happened to his hair? He got on street clothes? What? Pac is back. Didn't see that coming. I'm not even gonna lie. At all. At all. He comes out. There's a coffin outside the ring. He power bombs Darby from the ring to the coffin on the floor. It is gnarly. I don't know. I don't know what Darby's obsession is with dying. And of course, that's the end of the match. They throw him in the coffin. He wins. Mox wins. And my streak is broken. My streak is broken. Because I was 100% up to this point. And I guess I understand. Later after that, there's a backstage segment where they still have, because they carry Darby out in the coffin. The Death Riders carried him out in the coffin. So there's a segment later where Mox is, I guess, trying to deliver these last rites to Darby while he's in the coffin or whatever. They put him in a body bag and put him in the coffin. I want to say that too. They put him in a body bag and then put him in the coffin. So they're in the back, and Mox wants to have these last rites or whatever with Darby. So he tells the Death Riders to leave. I got this. Of course, Darby pops out of the coffin, attacks Mox, puts him in a body bag, and lights it on fire. Fast forward, because what happens in the next match all plays into what happens on Dynamite. And maybe I should keep all this contained. I'll move to the next match, and this all makes sense, I guess, later. So, next match is the AEW Women's World Championship 4-way. Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, Tekla, and Chris Statlander. And wouldn't you know who won the pony? Chris Statlander. Bruh. Like, I said it in the review. If there's anybody else who could win, it probably will be Stat. But they're also not really doing a thing with Stat that it looks like she would win the championship. But I wasn't thinking about freaking Wheeler Yuta in this particular way. Because of course she uses the seatbelt pin to win for the third time. Or second time, I think. And so of course there's the story like, oh, is she joining the Death Riders? Because Wheeler seems to be recruiting her, right? Well, and this was a good match too. Took a minute for the crowd to kind of get into it. Once they got into it, they were absolutely into it. Didn't see it coming. Did not see it coming. Once she hit the seatbelt, I said, she's about to win. And she won. And now I am down two blemishes on my near perfect record. Should have known. I should have known. Should have known. But she deserves it. Absolutely great great for Stat. It just kind of came from out of nowhere. But sometimes the best ones come out of nowhere, right? Sometimes the best moments are the moments you don't see coming. This was absolutely a moment that I didn't see coming. Fast forward to Dynamite, and it's going to tie both of these matches together. So Stat goes against Mina Shirakawa. Of course, Will is out again in Stat's ear. And even before the match, there was an interview with Stat where Renee asked Stat about where do you stand with the Death Riders? And all she said was, things can happen really fast when you make decisions, which is a line that Moxley used. So we're thinking, oh, I knew it was a misdirect. Because I said this, I think, weeks ago, that I think Danny joins. I don't think Stat joins. So after the match with Mina, out come the Death Riders. First out comes Harley, then come the Death Riders. And they all come out and they get in the ring. And Wheeler's there, and he's like, yeah, okay. Here's our champion. And she hugs. He hugs Stat, raises her hand. This is a champion. Woo, this is the champion. And Harley's kind of in the corner looking kind of spooked. Stat doesn't look particularly thrilled. And then boom. Clothesline to Yuta. Flips off Mox right in the face. Absconds from the ring. And so she's out in the crowd, and the Death Riders are like, what the, Marina couldn't get to her. She's gone. And the next thing you hear is Darby's music. And when I heard Darby's music, this is where my wrestling brain comes in. I hear Darby's music and I think to myself, Darby's coming out with a flamethrower. Guarantee it. I guarantee it. And sure enough, Darby comes out with a flamethrower. Now, I don't know what this is supposed to lead to. Because in my head, I'm thinking, are they going to do like an Inferno match? Is he just the new Undertaker? Is that where we are? Is he just the new Undertaker? Are we doing an Inferno match or something crazy? I would not put it past Darby or Mox. And it wouldn't be like, oh, Kane's boots on fire, or oh, his arm's on fire in this glove, and it's this flame retardant. Like, they would have done something to literally try to set themselves on fire, but whatever. So Darby pretty much chases them down with this flamethrower, challenges Mox to an I Quit match at Wrestle Dream. I think it's at Wrestle Dream. Again, terrified. Because now we have fire involved. He already set Jack Perry on fire. Okay. Terrified. Wrestle Dream's in St. Louis. And I might go. All right. Moving along. Now, this next match ties into this previous match. There's a thing here. I like how this is going. It's going way longer than I thought it would go, but hey, here we are. AEW World Tag Team Championship 4-way ladder match. Brodito, the Young Bucks, Josh Alexander and Hechicero, Jet Speed or Speedball, Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight. Listen, it's exactly what you think it is. It is exactly what you thought it would be. Brodito gets the win. Back in the saddle. Okay. This match is insane. There are so many spots. It's exactly what I thought it would be. The Bucks doing Buck type things. Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight doing that. Brodito, like, everybody did exactly what you expected them to do, and it was amazing. Okay. I would probably go second match of the night. as far as I'm concerned, first would be definitely was the three-way with Takeshita, Okada, and Mascara Dorado. This is probably second. The car crash, absolutely. You know, I love a good ladder match. Give me a good ladder match that has time, that where they will do some crazy, outrageous spots, and like I don't know, two or three good teams. Three, the more people, the better. Because I think how crazy can this get? Give me a good ladder match with the right people. The Bucks are always going to nail it. People like Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight are always going to nail it. You need your bruiser in there sometimes. That doesn't seem to fit, but he fits. So Brodito makes sense because you got Bandito doing Bandito type things. Brody being the bruiser who can fly. Then throw in like a Josh Alexander and a Hechicero, who are these technical people who are going to do these, like, again, one of those things where there's so many spots that you can't even name them. There's a spot where like Hechicero is doing submissions on the ladder, which then leads to like Mike Bailey doing his uh, moonsault knee press on the ladder. That pretty much almost took off Hechicero's head. There's a spot where Kevin Knight's on the ladder about to get the titles, and Hechicero, Josh Alexander, and the Bucks pick the ladder up and just dump him out on the outside through two tables. Insane. Brody King hits his sit out. I don't even know what he calls it, but his sit out pile driver, tombstone, on a ladder on the Mike Bailey, breaks the ladder in half. Mike Bailey doesn't move the rest of the match. This match was insane. And Brody comes away with the win, right victory, and exactly what I said would happen. What I did not say would happen is what happened next. Because out comes Jack Perry. And of course, he attacks the Bucks because they turn their back on him. We'll get more about that. Of course, they get the better of him. They're getting ready to hit him with the BTE trigger. And then he smiles. He leans his head back, a la Raven. Which, well, neither nor there. And we get a video. The same. There's an extended version of the video that we saw when Luchasaurus / Killswitch returned, which reveals, which was a rumor, a lot of people kind of picked up on it, reveals that it was Jack Perry who brought him back. Lights come back on. Luchasaurus is in the ring, chokeslams the Bucks, and we get the Jurassic Express reunion complete with Jungle Man. Is it Jungle Man? Is that the name of the song? Oh, great moment. It was a great moment. I'm not even gonna lie. I just got the goosebumps even thinking about it. Great moment. I don't think this is going to be the tradition, the way we saw them before. I think what Jungle Boy has, what Jack Perry has become now, is a lot different than what Jungle Boy was then. There's so much evolution from there that I think we're going to see something different, and I'm cool with. I'm absolutely okay with that. I'm glad they're back together. I can't wait to see what this new dynamic really is going to be. Both of them have been on the other side of things, on the heel spectrum, so I'm interested to see what this looks like going forward with both of them. Great. Now, I mentioned that this match, the tag team ladder match, and the women's match before it, have a bit of a midway point as well. Because on Dynamite this past week, they finally announced the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships. And I am so happy because I had said this, I think last week or maybe even the week before, that we kind of getting to a point where you got to do something with these women who keep competing in this mid card women's division thing. Like you're either gonna do blood and guts or you're gonna do women's tag team titles. Could do both, but you got to do one or the other. And he kind of debunked a little bit of the blood and guts thing because he mentioned that it's a matter of the venues and the venues having the seating charts already, and there aren't many venues that have the seating for the double ring setup. So he almost kind of spoiled it in a way. Once they said he had a major announcement, I was like, okay, well, it's not blood and guts because he just talked about blood and guts not happening anytime soon, probably. He really spoke on it, kind of like, we're open to doing it, but the venue. So once he pew-pewed a little bit, the only other thing would be the women's tag team championship, and of course he announced those. They look pretty much just like the men's. I think they're a little more angled, and I think the side plates are a little different. And of course, they have women's championship on there. I, of course, would have liked to have a completely different design. It feels a bit WWE-esque in doing that, but it's fine, I guess. I don't hate it. It's just me because I love new and different and whatever. Which is why I'm glad like we have the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Undisputed Championship in WWE, that they're not the same titles. Unfortunately, the women's titles are, but then sometimes it works out. So that's that too. And then they do white straps, which I would have liked for these belts to have had a white strap to kind of differentiate even more. But again, I think that's become like a WWE thing. We're just going to give you the same title and do it white with a white strap, so whatever. But I get it. You don't, want to differentiate that way. Automatically, and they didn't announce anything about a bracket or how they were going to determine it. I guess it's going to be a tournament, I'm sure. There are plenty of tag teams in that division who the division is pretty much made already. Now I guess you have to establish it, but the division is pretty much already made because you've been having matches with these people for months now, right? And so now it's just a matter of divvying up the team. So you have Megan Bain and Penelope Ford, of course. You have the Sisters of Sin with Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Harley's in a weird place. You have Tajay. There's a weird three-way thing there that I don't really understand. I don't know. I don't know who the first should be. I saw a theory, and the way that things are kind of looking right now, I don't think that fits in that theory. But if they're not the first, it is an inevitability. In the same way that Sasha Banks and Bayley, you knew they would be in the running for those WWE Tag Team Championships when they first came out. And obviously they were the first. It is almost a foregone conclusion. At some point, Willow and Stat are going to win those titles. At some point. Now, the theory I saw was that Willow and Stat would win them first. And then upon losing them, would go back to feuding, and this time it would be for the title. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because putting that title on Stat now and then having her immediately go into the tag team title thing would mean she won't be defending the world title more than likely. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. That's not going to be. Don't do that. AEW has a bad habit of doing that, like putting the title on somebody and then having them go do something else. Don't do that here. So who wins them first? I don't know. Maybe Julia Hart and Scott Blue. I don't know. Amanada's going to be in there somewhere, right? You would think maybe Tech would be in there somewhere, but probably not because, or maybe they put them together. They've been feuding for months, and now all of a sudden they're just. But then that kind of goes against the Sisters of Sin thing. Not sure how they would do that. Harley's in a weird place because she is right now under the wing of Statlander, right? And now that's her current best friend. And she's trying to bring Willow back into the fold. Does she team with Willow when they win the tag team titles, maybe, or something? That could be a thing. And then there's just Athena and Billy Starks. You could do that if you want to. Tony Storm and Alex Windsor, I think, could be a thing. Or maybe Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor could be a thing. There are a lot of already established tandems and other tandems that you could create. Bring in Shayna, do Marina Shafir and Shayna Baszler. Please do that. That makes all the sense in the world. So there are a lot of different directions that they could go with that. I look forward to seeing, and I believe people make a lot about AEW's women's division and how Tony pushes them. He's been kind of killing it here and there. Like, people tend to not be able to be satisfied no matter what he does with the women's division. Is almost never enough. But right now they are doing amazing. Okay, you got several different feuds going at once. Again, Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne, Sisters of Sin, Triangle Madness, whatever. That side of things versus like the entire side of baby faces. Then you got Mercedes doing what she's doing. Tony is, Tony. There are so many angles you could take there. So I look forward to where we're going with this. I want to reiterate a point that I heard on the Fightful AEW Dynamite podcast with Sean Ross Sapp and Alex. I wanted to call him Alex Kapowski. That's not his name, but they mentioned, do not reveal the bracket to me until you have the entire bracket, because AEW is good for, we're going to give you the bracket and we're going to reveal, like, here's the bracket with these one or two teams that are competing right now. What? No, give me the whole bracket. Give it to me all at once. Don't give me the bracket until you have the whole bracket. Please. Please. Moving on. I'm sorry, I went on a rant. That just... Main event time. AEW World Championship. Hangman Adam Page versus Kyle Fletcher. Of course, Hangman comes away with the win. Kyle Fletcher looks like a star in the process. This was exactly what it needed to be. Essentially a coming out party for Kyle Fletcher. He took Hangman to the limit. To the limit. Tables and pile drivers and dead eyes and super kicks and just brainbusters through more tables. And that match was no outside interference, of course, because the stipulation was that if any member of the Don Callis family interfered, Fletcher would not only lose, but he would be stripped of the AEW TNT Championship. So couldn't do that, right? And again, Hangman comes away with the win. Just a really good knockdown, drag out fight of a wrestling match. Again, which is really good. And there's not even much to say other than go watch this yourself and see what I mean. Just a really good wrestling match. Two people just going back and forth. Again, Kyle Fletcher came out looking like $1,000,000. He will eventually be a world champion in AEW. This was the way to kind of introduce that concept introduce that idea, it's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. And this was the way of basically showing us that it's going to happen. Show him that he belongs. Show us that he belongs. So absolutely, absolutely true. On Dynamite, Heyman didn't do much. He had a match with Lee Moriarty. That was a good match in Moriarty's hometown from Pittsburgh. Hangman, of course, comes away with the win. Kyle Fletcher comes out to challenge Hologram because Hologram's undefeated. So, of course, he should be getting title matches, right? So it's essentially streak versus title, which, of course, Kyle Fletcher will win. I believe it. Well, you know what? I believe he'll win, but maybe he won't. Maybe he won't. I don't know. I don't think that'll necessarily hurt him in the way that you think that you would think it would. But the thing to Hologram losing would be the thing with streaks is eventually you have to break it, especially this type of streak, because okay, case in point, the Undertaker's undefeated WrestleMania streak. You didn't have to end that. You didn't have to. You could have retired perfect, and it would have been fine. Doing it only made sense in service to help somebody, but other than that, it didn't. To help somebody else, not the Undertaker, but you didn't have to break that. But if it was Goldberg's streak type thing, that's kind of what, not in the same way, but that's kind of what Hologram had, that he hadn't been defeated yet. In an instance like that, then you have to break it at some point. And I won't say the sooner you do it, the better, but once you do it, it opens up more creative things that you can do, because now you're not handcuffed by the undefeated streak. So probably going to lose. There's the clone thing coming up with the Holoclone, I guess we're calling it. That's going to be a thing, and he's probably going to lose in that feud somewhere too. So getting this win out of the way, I think getting this loss out of the way helps us. So getting this loss out of the way helps us move into what's next for Hologram and actually being able to do more with him, where he can lose and tell compelling stories once the undefeated streak story is over. So Kyle Fletcher's going to win that. And he's going to be fine. Kyle Fletcher's going to be fine. Like I said, this established him as a main event player or main event adjacent player. So that's going to be big. And Hangman, I'm not sure where Hangman's going there. I think there's a 6-man tag with the Death Riders next week. The Hangman's going to be a part of. But again, I'm not sure who his next challenger is and where that's going to come from. Again, mainly because the roster is depleted. And there haven't been many other heels beside. There are plenty actually, but none that I think fit into that main event role. So they're gonna have to put somebody up, bring somebody up. MJF was a top heel. They just had that match. Kyle Fletcher's another, not so much top heel, more of a mid card heel. But you had to kind of spring him up so that eventually he can be seen as eventually a main event level heel. Mox. After that, I'm not really sure where he goes. It's not going to be Mox, obviously. Would it be somebody from the Death Riders? I'm not really sure. So I'm not really sure what's next for Hangman. But I'm interested to see. There are definitely directions they could go. Okada, maybe another title versus, maybe not even title versus title, but I wouldn't want them to see that because that's a little. I think it could happen eventually at one, but I don't think we're there yet. So I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure where we go with Hangman going forward. But again, I have faith in AEW to figure it out. And that is All Out and Dynamite. That's all the AEW news of the week, basically. Again, I didn't watch WrestlePalooza. I can tell you nothing really happened. There were no big surprise. Even though it was promised from Triple H, you saying nothing yet, and you just wait, and then nothing happened. Brock squashed Cena apparently. Punk and AJ, of course, won against Seth and Becky. Stephanie McCurry is your new women's champion. What other matches were there? Cody beat Drew, of course. And I feel like there's a fifth match that happened that maybe the Rusev Sheamus match. I'll Google it. I think the Rusev Sheamus match happened. And it was so mid that ESPN rated it a C. Now think of this. Think of that. On the first PLE on ESPN, ESPN writers rated it a C. So all of this fanfare, all of this, bloviating, counter programming, everything that they did to hype up this show for it to be a mid show. And I mean literally mid because it was a C. Garbage. Okay, that was the other match. The Usos versus the Vision, which LA Knight ended up being the referee for. And the Vision won. And I guess good. Even though you got these reunited Usos, but good, I guess. Whatever. Again, mid. It was mid. And I didn't even watch it and I know it was mid. The results told me that it was mid. There's nothing shocking there. There were no returns. There were no big shocks. The only thing, Stephanie McMahon's going in the Hall of Fame. Whoopee. And I guess that makes her the first McMahon going in the Hall of Fame. But Triple H went in last year. So maybe not. I don't know. Shane going in would have been more shocking than Stephanie going in. And somehow, when did Undertaker become like in the inner circle? I mean, I guess it's not a bad thing. But when did when the company never mind. It makes sense to me now. It makes sense to me now. So that's that. I mean, what are you gonna do? In the NXT front, I'll cover that real quick, just because I see it on Bleacher Report now. I'm looking at it. The title versus title, Obafemi versus Trick Williams match, of course, ended in a no contest because everybody from TNA and NXT got involved, and we're starting the NXT TNA invasion. Again, anything related to this collaboration blows my mind because I can't wrap my head around it. It will continue to do so. And the thing that's even funnier about TNA now is that so many people on the front lines of this quote unquote invasion came from WWE or NXT. So they're literally just showing back up. In a lot of cases, where they just left from. Like Cedric Alexander, Xia Li, the Iconics / the Inspiration. Is Mustafa Ali going over there? He just left from there. A couple of years ago or so. So that is very interesting to say the least. I'm not sure how this is going to go, and apparently it's supposed to go through Bound for Glory, which also is strange. They're probably going to do a TNA. I think I mentioned this maybe last week. I think we might have talked about this. If not, I might have put it on a post somewhere. But there will be a TNA. If they're doing a TNA NXT Invasion angle, there's a good chance they're probably going to do an Invasion pay-per-view because they probably still own that IP. So they're probably going to do that at some point. I highly doubt I'll tune into that. If it's still on Peacock, I may check it out, but we'll see. Nothing about this partnership intrigues me. And as much as I have loved TNA over the years, I don't know how I feel about this WWE incarnation because I feel like that's what it's about to be. If WWE does not buy TNA straight out, A, I would be shocked. And then B, I wouldn't be shocked. But I don't want to see it. I don't want to see WWE on. The monopoly is never good. It is never good. All you people, or all the people who are hoping for AEW to die, that WWE will put them out of business, you do not understand what will happen when WWE is the only game in town. Nothing good will come of that. You know how I know? Because we've already seen it. And the thing is, it wasn't the only game in town. It is just the only one that anybody cared about. AEW is in a position that is much different than where TNA was at any point in its history. At any point. Even when it seemed like it was a number 2, it still wasn't TNA. I mean, it still wasn't AEW. TNA at some point began focusing on trying to be WWE light, and it never achieved it. Despite the fact they had all the tools to make it, except for like a TV deal and a company and a network that was behind them, or corporation, company, whatever, behind them to make it so. But they had all the tools as far as the talent and the bookers. And bookers who, yeah, were very old school, but we were closer to that old school style working than we are now. What Jim Cornette was doing then in TNA worked. Because, yeah, we had moved forward a little bit, but that was still kind of a leftover, lingering thing. People who liked WCW still had some of that mindset. Or who liked, that older style of wrestling. So Jim Cornette's name still had value on TV. So, again, if you want AEW out of business, I think you people who say that do not know what you're asking for. You cannot be that big of WWE homers that you want to see them to see them buy TNA and put AEW out of business. Because then where are your favorites supposed to go? Are they just not supposed to have a job? Is that where you're trying to take the business? That the only place to work is WWE, and if you don't work at WWE, you're in what high school gyms and scavenging for shows to be on? No, that's not what you want. It's not what you want. It doesn't help the business. And WWE isn't even owned by like Vince McMahon or anything. They're TKO. And I said this in a post somewhere before, and then people said I was being, I guess, silly or nothing. I was like, I don't think that WWE can be put out of business by another wrestling company. AEW will never get big enough. I know they say never, but I feel like I can say this. AEW will never get big enough to threaten putting WWE out of business. But that being said, that doesn't mean that I think WWE is like foolproof, because they're owned by TKO. And sure, they're being very successful right now. But they're making a lot of strange decisions that could lead to WWE not being profitable. It doesn't take much. And here's the thing, if it becomes not as profitable, if it becomes a bit of a burden, I have no doubt in my mind, it would not shock me one bit to see TKO completely dump WWE one way or the other. Whether they shutter it or whether they try to sell it off. And selling it off may be a best case scenario, but WWE. It's too big to fail, but that doesn't mean it's not too big to be shuttered because it's owned by It's owned by a company, a corporation now, who can make whatever decision they want to make about it. So you do not want the monopoly you think you want. If you truly love wrestling, you do not want the monopoly you think you want. You may not like AEW, but you need AEW. Period. That's my time. I'm gonna get out of here. This actually went a little longer than I intended for it to. That being said, thank you for tuning in again to Talmbout Rasslin right here on the Black Phoenix Network. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend. Make sure you leave a reaction. Make sure you leave a comment. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, my viewing public. Because otherwise, I'm just talking into the void and nobody's listening. So, whether you're watching on Substack, whether you're watching on YouTube, because I noticed now that my YouTube numbers are a little higher than my Substack numbers. So, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Substack, leave a comment. I'm going to read them everywhere. Like, share, subscribe. Share it on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere else that you may be. Share it, please. Tell somebody. Tell somebody. Tell somebody. If you're an independent wrestler out there and somehow you catch wind of the Talking About Wrestling podcast, let me know. Hit me up. I would love to interview you. I would love to interview you. Let's get some eyes on both of us, right? If you're a Memphis wrestler particularly, so shout out to 901 Wrestling and Championship Wrestling of Memphis, and any other independent companies out here. If you would like to be interviewed, and I'm going to tag 901 Wrestling in this one particularly. If anyone from 901 Wrestling sees this, whether you be in management, whether you be on the roster, production, referees, I don't care. If you would like to be interviewed, if you would like to have someone interviewed, send them my way. Send them my way, okay? Like I said, let's get some eyes on both our products, okay? And hey, I'll even come and do commentary. Definitely shooting my shot. So all that being said, sorry. So please like, share, subscribe. Let's build this platform up. I know it's a whole lot of wrestling podcasts out there, so thank you for tuning in to mine. I look forward to being a part of this wrestling landscape, wrestling podcasting landscape. So, without that being said, I've talked your ear off long enough. Go enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I am your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. This is Talking About Wrestling right here on the Black Phoenix Network. And until next time, we are